She drove her Mercedes straight into my gate like she owned the place, and when the dust cleared, her 60-grand car was twisted scrap while my gate didn't even flinch. The cameras caught everything the neighbors poured into the street, and for the first time in months, Karen's smug smile was gone. But if you think this started with that crash, let me take you back, because the road to that moment was paved with every dirty trick in the HOA playbook. My name's Roy Henderson, 52 years old, contractor, by trade, husband by luck. I've lived in Pine Valley for 15 years, built half the homes out here with my own two hands. My wife Susan always jokes I know every building code in the county better than I know my kids' birthdays, and she's not wrong. That gate at the end of my drive, solid cedar beams, sunk 3 feet into concrete, wasn't just a gate, it was my line in the sand, my land, my rules. And one woman decided none of that mattered. The first time she rammed through, I thought it was an accident, but when she rolled back around window down, realtor's smile plastered on her face and chirped, "Hi, I'm Karen Carter, HOA president. We need to talk about this gate situation. My blood boiled." "Gate situation? Lady, you just destroyed my property." She waved like I was fussing over spilled milk. "It was a safety hazard. Community emergency access, you understand." I told her straight, this was private property, no easements, no right-of-way. Her eyes flashed cold, and she said, "We'll see about that." Then she drove off, leaving me with splinters in my hands and rage in my gut. I called the sheriff, thinking this was cut-and-dry trespassing property damage. Sheriff Brooks showed up, decent guy I'd seen at town meetings. Only this time he shuffled his boots, wouldn't look me in the eye. "Looks like a civil matter, Roy. Maybe you two can work it out." "Work it out." She smashed a car through my gate. But he stuck to his script, got back in his cruiser, and left me standing there like an idiot. My neighbor Mike wandered over, mug of coffee in hand, and just shook his head. "Karen strikes again," he asked, like this was normal. Turns out it was. And worse, Brooks wasn't lazy. He was family, married Karen's sister, which meant the law had been muzzled before I even made the call. From there, the war escalated. Anonymous complaints brought inspectors to my door, marching around like they owned the place. One slapped me with an $800 fine for insufficient permits, even though my paperwork had been solid for 15 years. At the county clerk's office, I learned the wait for certified copies was 6 weeks. My deadline was 30 days. Convenient. Neighbors whispered about safety concerns. One night, Mike slid me Harris's number, another homeowner who'd fought the same fight only to cave and sell 30 grand under market. Guess whose agency listed the house Karen's? That was the first time I realized this wasn't a grudge. This was a business model. The pressure built fast. 1-star reviews popped up online, detailed lies about jobs I'd never done. Clients started canceling contracts. Then Susan's bookkeeping clients bailed after Karen whispered about domestic instability. Our insurance agent called, worried about liability concerns. Even the bank hinted they might call our loan. I sat at our kitchen table surrounded by violation notices, letters, and bills, and for the first time in my life, I felt broken. I actually drafted a letter offering to take the damn gate down just to make it stop. And I hated myself for it. Was I really going to roll over? Was I wrong to fight? Maybe Karen was right. Maybe I was the problem. That's when Mike showed up with a grin and a little digital recorder. He hit play, and there was Karen's voice, clear as day, coaching Mrs. Patterson to lie. "Say you're concerned about safety. Doesn't matter if he's never been aggressive, just stick to the script." I sat there, fists clenched, listening to proof that every complaint was staged theater. And then the email arrived anonymous, with correspondence between Karen and a developer named Tom Davidson. $200,000 promised if she delivered access through my land. 200 grand was the price tag on my sanity. That was the moment something in me snapped back into place. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't wrong. I was being hunted, and I was done playing defense. I pulled out a yellow legal pad and started sketching. 30 years of construction teaches you a simple truth. Every structure has weak points, but it also has strengths if you know where to build. Karen thought my weak point was paperwork. She forgot I work in concrete and steel. So while she circled in her Mercedes filming, I got to work. Night after night under floodlights, I rebuilt my gate. Only this time, cedar beams hid steel rebar 3 feet of reinforced concrete sunk into bedrock. From the street, it looked ordinary. Inside it was a fortress designed to laugh at 4,000 pounds of German engineering. Mike called it overkill. I called it preparation. Karen wasn't done, though. She smeared my business, tanked Susan's livelihood, and turned neighbors into actors in her little play. But I was recording, too. Every drive-by, every violation notice, every lie. My survival file grew thicker by the day. And when the anonymous email confirmed her entire scheme pressure isolation forced sales, I knew the endgame was near. Karen's weakness was her overconfidence. She always assumed people folded. Not this time. The morning of the showdown, the street filled like a parade. Karen in her pristine Mercedes, Tom Davidson in his BMW Channel 7 news van, setting up their cameras, even Sheriff Brooks dragging his feet behind them. Karen strutted like a conquering general, coffee in hand, chatting about closing the deal. She climbed into her car, adjusted her mirrors, and gunned it toward my gate, certain she'd smash through like before. Neighbors lined the sidewalks, phones out. The news crew aimed their cameras. And I sat on my porch, heart steady, waiting. The impact was thunder, steel against arrogance. Her hood crumpled like a soda can, airbags exploded, steam hissed from her radiator, and that Mercedes died a sudden violent death. My gate didn't move an inch, not a scratch. The crowd gasped, then roared. Karen stumbled out covered in airbag dust, dazed and humiliated. The news crew caught every second the HOA president destroying her own car in broad daylight. Tom Davidson screamed about his deal collapsing. Neighbors laughed, shook their heads, filmed from every angle. Physics doesn't negotiate. And just when I thought the day couldn't get better, a man in a suit walked up, calm as you please. He introduced himself as David Carter, Karen's own nephew and attorney. "I think it's time Aunt Karen learned about consequences," he said, handing me his card. That night at an emergency HOA meeting, David dropped a bomb. 3 years of evidence emails, financial records, witness statements, everything Karen had done to bleed families dry and flip their homes for profit. The room went silent as he laid it out, $500,000 in commissions earned by systematic harassment. Victims' names, dollar amounts, timelines. Even Brooks couldn't look at her. By the end of the night, state investigators were called in. Karen was arrested on the spot, conspiracy, abuse of authority, harassment. Her real estate license revoked, her assets seized to repay victims. The developer walked away. The HOA voted her out unanimously and rewrote the rules to prevent another dictator from rising. And me, I didn't cheer. I didn't gloat. I just stood there watching Karen led away in handcuffs, knowing she'd finally hit a wall she couldn't push through. That's where my story ends. Not with a barbecue, not with balloons, just with the simple satisfaction of watching a bully collapse under the weight of her own arrogance. And if you take nothing else from this, remember, people like Karen always think they can break you, until the day they find out you're unbreakable.